Now, we all know that a little bit of stress is useful. In fact, it's part of a vital system that can help us deal with danger and accomplish tasks and activities efficiently. This acute form of stress keeps us healthy and alert, but ongoing chronic stress is what gives this coping mechanism a bad name, as it can have unsavory effects on the body as a whole. So we've invited dietitian Ashley Carradis to chat to us about the impact of stress on the body, as well as some of the management tools that can assist. Ashley, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Now, in terms of stress, what do you see in terms of a physical indicators in the body that someone is overly stressed in a chronic way?
So it's a bit difficult to tell the difference between acute and chronic stress. Chronic stress manifests a lot longer down the line.
Yes.
But on an acute level, you get things like an increase in heart rate. You might feel like you're ready for action. It's really this fight or flight response
Yes.
that happens. But part of the fight or flight response, as you just said, is to actually mobilize us for danger. It's almost like a primitive response, like a caveman response. So what happens is we're so stressed all the time that we keep going into fight or flight. And some of the fight or flight mechanisms are actually initially protective, but along the line they cause issues.
Okay.
So some of them are inflammatory conditions,
Right.
because there's a direct effect on producing more pro-inflammatory cytokines, which initially is actually to protect the body.
Yes.
But over time, we can develop inflammatory conditions.
Okay.
That's why stress is linked to almost any condition, be it cancer, heart disease, because they're all kind of inflammatory. But there's other little telltale signs, tension, of course, so tension in the jaw, tension in the neck, tension in the bowels, because
Right.
that's another place
That's like
where...
not in your stomach, literally, in a way.
Yeah, so, and things like high blood pressure can also be a sign of
Okay.
continued stress, and just a feeling of not being able to calm yourself down after stress. So what happens is the stress response gets almost exhausted.
Right.
So you feel the effect of stress, but then you don't feel the coming down out of it. So you're
Okay.
always in sympathetic,
Yes.
and your rest and digest phases are not happening as often anymore. So you just feel
Okay.
strung out
Yes,
a lot of the
yes.
time.
Now, from a nutrition point of view, how can you support your body to, as you mentioned, process this extra adrenaline and these hormones that you're generating and this inflammation in your body to get you almost one step ahead of the stress, if I can call it that?
Yeah, so exactly. Stress is a hormonal response. And when we do the negative feedback, so getting back to the start point and getting back to the parasympathetic, there's certain things that we need to do that. And there's also certain nutrients that get used up in stress. So the most important ones are generally your B vitamins
Okay.
and magnesium.
Right.
Selenium is also quite important in the stress response. And then also because of the inflammation that it causes, eating a lot of fruits and vegetables, and again, your phytonutrients
Yes.
become important to reduce the oxidative stress in the body and support the body through the stress process. And you also have to look at what is manifesting. So if you are at risk for heart disease or you're experiencing high blood pressure, you need to deal with that nutritionally.
Okay.
Or if your stomach is being affected, because what happens, the blood diverts away from the digestive system to the
Right.
muscles for fight or flight, and people get things like irritable bowel or inflammatory bowel. So whatever it's also symptom management from stress. Support the body and manage the symptoms that are showing.
Now, Ashley, in terms of weight gain, obviously there's the element of stress eating, because you're stressed, you eat more. But does prolonged stress impact weight gain regardless of whether you eat more or less?
Yes, it can. So initially the stress response would be a little bit more like catabolic, like your adrenaline response.
Right.
But what happens is we also produce a hormone called cortisol. And cortisol is quite similar to cortisone,
Yes, okay.
the hormone. So it does have weight gaining properties. But what happens is when we're mobilizing the body for stress, we want as much sugar in the blood stream as possible because we're getting ready for fight or flight.
Right.
So what happens is we increase gluconeogenesis, so there's more glucose in the blood, and we decrease insulin or become more insulin resistant to keep the sugar in the blood. So over time, the chronic stress response, the cortisol and the insulin resistance can start to contribute to to weight gain, especially like hormonal weight gain.
Okay. Well, what would be your advice to somebody if they need to just take some action to start a process going from a nutritional and body support perspective?
Well, from a nutritional and body support perspective, I think eating correctly really, really helps. You know, staying away from high sugar foods, because then you're just you're just exacerbating the high blood sugar. Staying away from caffeine as well when you're very stressed, because caffeine and stress is almost the exact same hormonal response.
Okay.
So staying away from stimulants like sugar and caffeine. Eating a lot of your fresh fruits and vegetables to get your antioxidant levels up, and if needed, maybe taking some supplements as well.
Okay. What sort of supplements would be the best to be taking?
So your B vitamins,
Okay.
magnesium as well, selenium, and then there's also something called an adaptogen.
Right.
People just need to be careful with adaptogens and other medications. They might need to check with their healthcare provider.
Okay.
The most popular ones are ginseng. A lot of people have heard of ginseng,
Yes,
ashwagandha, licorice root. So what these adaptogens do is they help the body adapt to stress, and they're herbal.
Okay.
So they help buffer the stress response so that the internal cellular damage is not as pronounced as it would be without them.
Okay. In terms of things like meditation and yoga and just giving your body a little bit of a break generally, what are your thoughts around that?
No, absolutely. Anything that stimulates rest and digest, which is parasympathetic, is going to help. So meditation is clinically proven to get the body into a parasympathetic state. Something like yoga or more low impact exercises can also stimulate parasympathetic. And then I think anything that makes somebody feel good or calm. So it's different for everyone. It could be anything from listening to music to taking a bath to humor, phoning a friend that makes you laugh, like anything that makes you feel good. And I think most people just need to understand that when something stresses us, we have to kind of ask, like, is this going to matter in an hour?
Yes.
Is this going to matter tomorrow? Is this going to matter in a week?
A lot of people find that meditation is a big thing. You know, you've got to be able to sit down for an hour and not move a muscle and close your eyes and have nothing happening in your head. How do you get people to start engaging with that process without making it become too big of a deal?
Yeah. So I've also got a yoga background, so I've had some experience with meditation. There are many different types of meditations, and I don't think there's any right or wrong way to do it. I think you can meditate while you're washing the dishes. So the first step of meditation, okay, obviously like in yoga, the ultimate form of meditation is like nirvana, which none of us really get. You know, it's not really the aim at this point for stress management.
Unless you dedicate your life to yoga.
Yeah, exactly. So the first step of meditation is actually concentration. So it's about taking the external clutter and being able to concentrate on one thing, whether it's your breath or a mantra or a picture in your head or a movement. You know, so some like dancing and yoga moves, it's a meditation because you're not thinking of anything else. So you're trying to just really focus your mind on one thing. And it's not about, in the beginning, you're going to have lots of thoughts in your head, but it's about just trying to find space in between the thoughts and trying to extend that space as much as possible so that you're not thinking and the mind is not taking over. Yeah, but it just takes practice. You've just got to sit and close your eyes and give it a go, you know.
Take that first step. I think it's a great thing. But again, it's also that idea of body, mind, and soul. And when the three kind of connect up, you're in a better space on all levels, which is where you're really aiming to be. So thank you so much for your thoughts and your time today. It's been great to talk to you. Wonderful.
Thank you.